Hey guys, tonight we're diving into what if you spent one night in a medieval monastery. Forget the Hollywood monk with a glowing halo and a gentle hymn. Reality? More like drafty stone halls, suspicious silence, and the constant smell of, let's just call it holy body odor. So before you tuck yourself in, do me a favor. Hit that like button if you love wandering into weird corners of history with me, and comment below. Would you actually survive a night in a place where the biggest thrill is chanting in the dark? Now dim the lights, wrap yourself in a blanket, maybe light a candle if you're brave, and let's sneak into the cloisters together. You push open the heavy wooden gates and boom, the outside world vanishes. No taverns, no gossip, just silence. Cold, echoing silence. The walls loom higher than you expected, every stone dripping with centuries of prayers, secrets, and probably mildew. A monk greets you, not with a smile, but with the kind of look you get if you walked into a library shouting, "Free Wi-Fi." He gestures for you to follow. Congratulations, you've just been drafted into one of the most disciplined sleepovers in history. Your footsteps click on the stone floor. Torches flicker. The smell of beeswax and damp moss fills your nose. On one side, a garden, herbs, roses, and the faint whiff of cabbage stew. On the other, arched stone windows opening into darkness. Every corner hums with rules. No talking, no laughing. Definitely no TikTok dances in the courtyard. It's like Hogwarts, but with way less fun and way more fasting. A bell rings. Everyone shuffles into the chapel. Candles flare against the black. You sit on a wooden bench that feels like it was designed by Satan's chiropractor. The monks begin chanting. Deep, slow, hypnotic tones that rattle in your chest. You can't tell if it's soothing or terrifying. Probably both. And here's the kicker. This wasn't just pretty music. Gregorian chants were meant to hypnotize, to bend your brain toward prayer. Think of it as medieval Spotify, except the only playlist is Monk Mood 24/7. Later, you're led into the dormitory. Rows of straw beds, wool blankets that scratch like sandpaper. And yes, the monks all sleep in the same room. The air smells like hay, sweat, and feet. Lots of feet. You try to lie down. The straw crunches. Something pokes your back. Congratulations. You've just discovered the medieval version of a memory foam mattress. Memories of pain. Oh, and here's a fun fact. Monks weren't allowed to sleep too comfortably. Too much comfort was considered sinful. Imagine explaining that to a 21st century mattress salesman. Just as you start to drift, you hear it. A creak in the rafters, a shuffle of feet, maybe a whispered prayer, or maybe not a prayer. Here's the suspicious part. Monasteries weren't just about God. They were also about power. Many kept forbidden books, hidden relics, even political secrets. So while you're tossing and turning, someone might be sneaking into the library, where manuscripts are chained to desks so no one accidentally borrows them. Now that you've survived the night, itchy blanket, chanting dreams and all, you realize something. The monastery wasn't just a place to pray, it was a time capsule, a fortress of silence where knowledge, secrets, and strange rituals were locked away. So what do you think? Would you survive one night here? Or would you run screaming at the first midnight chant? Let me know in the comments below. And here's your takeaway. For all their strict rules and suspicious silence, monasteries kept alive the knowledge of the ancient world. Without those sleepless monks, you wouldn't even have the history we're talking about right now. So next time you complain about your roommate snoring, just be glad you don't share a straw bed with 30 chanting monks. A second bell jolts you awake. Midnight prayers. Yes, in case you thought monks slept like normal humans. Think again. They broke their sleep into chunks because God apparently preferred a fractured REM cycle. You shuffle into the chapel again. The air is colder now. Your breath fogs in the candlelight. Shadows stretch across the walls, and for a moment, the carved saints look like they're glaring at you. The chanting resumes, deeper this time. Slower. You swear it almost sounds like the walls themselves are humming. And while everyone else seems calm, you're half convinced something, or someone, is moving in the dark corners beyond the candlelight. On the way back to your bed, you notice something odd. A narrow corridor, half hidden behind a tapestry. The monk ahead doesn't even glance at it. But you, well, you're modern, curious, foolish, probably doomed. You slip inside. The air is thicker here, dustier, the smell of old parchment and melted wax. Your torch flickers, revealing wooden doors with iron locks, some carved with strange symbols. And then faintly, you hear it, a scratching sound, like quills, writing. Someone is in there, someone who definitely shouldn't be. You find the scriptorium, the monastery's beating brain. Rows of desks, ink pots, stacks of parchment, books chained to the tables, as if the monks feared thieves, or worse, knowledge escaping. At one desk sits a hooded figure. He doesn't look up. His quill scratches endlessly, as though the words themselves are urgent, dangerous. You lean closer. He's copying not scripture, but diagrams, astrological charts, forbidden sciences. And then, without turning, he speaks. You didn't see this. Well, that's reassuring. Dawn creeps closer, and the monks gather for their final prayer before rest. You join them, stomach growling. Finally, food, the refectory. Long wooden tables, a single candle. Silence. Always silence. The meal, bread, beans, a thin vegetable broth that tastes suspiciously like boiled sadness. And yes, fish. Always fish. If you're lucky, cheese that smells like someone hid it in a boot for 6 months. But here's the kicker. No one talks. While you chew your sad bread, another monk reads scripture aloud. Imagine eating breakfast every day with someone live podcasting Bible verses into your ear. Would you survive this routine? Or would you accidentally sneak a midnight snack from the pantry, risking eternal damnation for a piece of slightly less stale bread? After the meal, you're shown into the reliquary, a room of treasures, holy bones, silver chalices, relics said to heal the sick or curse the wicked. The air is heavy with incense. The faint smell of smoke clings to the stones. In the center, a glass case holds what they claim is the finger bone of a saint. You lean closer. The monk beside you whispers, "It protects us." But his eyes flick nervously toward the locked chest in the corner. A chest no one seems to talk about. And now your brain is spinning. What's in there? A relic too powerful or too dangerous to show? Or maybe just the monastery's secret wine stash? The last hours stretch on. You're exhausted, cold, hungry. Every candle seems to flicker with secrets. Every shadow holds a whisper. And then finally, the bell for dawn. The monks rise as if they hadn't been awake all night. You stumble after them, wondering how on earth they survive this cycle every single day. As the gates creak open, the first light spills across the cloister garden. Roses glitter with dew. A rooster crows. And for a moment, just a moment, you feel it. The strange peace of this world. Silent, disciplined, mysterious. Cozy and suspicious all at once. You step outside into the cloister again. The night air is sharper now, carrying the faint metallic smell of iron and wet stone. Torches hiss in their brackets, wax dripping like melted time. Your sandals slap against the stone floor, echoing so loudly you half expect a monk to shush you. Somewhere in the darkness, a raven croaks. You glance up at the gargoyles perched along the roofline. Their crooked mouths grin down at you as if they know something you don't. And maybe they do. A monk gestures sharply. Silence. Always silence. You've entered the great silence, a strict rule where monks spoke no words from dusk until dawn. Imagine trying to live like that. No late-night conversations, no arguments over chores, not even whispering, "Pass the salt." The only sounds allowed were prayer, chant, and the occasional unfortunate stomach growl echoing through the chapel. You try to stay quiet, but modern instincts betray you. You almost trip over your robe and stifle a laugh. A monk glares so hard you swear he could kill Wi-Fi with his eyes. Back in the dormitory, sleep should come easy, but it doesn't. The room creaks like it's alive. Rats scuttle in the rafters. Straw scratches your skin. Someone snores. a loud, wet, apocalyptic snore that sounds like a bear choking on porridge. You roll over and notice something odd. One monk isn't asleep. He sits upright in bed, staring at nothing, lips moving silently. You wonder, is he praying or rehearsing secrets meant for no one's ears? The longer you stare, the less human he looks in the flickering candlelight. Before dawn, you're pulled from bed for another ritual. You shuffle into the cloister's washroom. Cold stone basins. Water dark as ink. No soap, no towels. Just icy water splashed on your face until your skin burns red. Congratulations. You've just experienced the medieval version of a shower. Less self-care spa day, more baptism by hypothermia. The water smells faintly of iron, moss, and something else. You don't want to think about it too hard. The bell tolls again, vibrating through your bones. You climb the tower stairs, each step slick with centuries of wax and dust. The smell of pigeons mixes with old wood and rusted iron. At the top, the bell looms huge, cracked in places, but still alive with sound. A monk pulls the rope, his hands blistered from years of this duty. The city beyond the monastery is still dark, but for a heartbeat, the world feels smaller. Just you, the bell, and 1,000 listening ears hidden in the night. Later, they let you into the library. Rows of manuscripts, their covers cracked and flaking like old skin. Books chained to the desks. The smell of ink and vellum thick in the air. Here's the suspicious part. Not all the books are holy. Some hold herbal recipes, star charts, even records of local gossip. Monks doubled as medieval data hoarders, scribbling down everything from cures for headaches to which baron's cousin ran off with the shepherd. You spot a dusty tome half hidden under cloth. When you brush it off, you see strange symbols, circles, stars, markings like a secret code. The monk beside you coughs sharply and slams it shut. Not for you, he mutters. Now you really want to know. At dawn's edge, you slip into the herb garden. Dew clings to every leaf. The air is thick with rosemary, sage, and lavender. Bees hum lazily around the last blossoms. But some plants stand apart, hidden behind taller bushes. Darker, bitter-smelling herbs. Mandrake, henbane, the sort of things whispered about in witch trials. You kneel, touch a leaf, and feel the monk's eyes on you. Some plants heal, he says softly. Some should never be touched. The look he gives you lingers long after you've stepped away. They don't usually let visitors into the crypt. But let's be honest, you're not great at following rules. The stairs spiral downward, damp stone swallowing the light. The air grows heavy, smelling of earth and wax. Candles flicker against tombs carved with Latin inscriptions. You hear whispers, not from the monks, but from the walls themselves, or maybe just your brain cracking under sleep deprivation. Either way, you swear one of the tomb lids is slightly ajar. Back above, the monks gather for morning chant. You climb to the loft, watching from above as voices rise and fall. The sound is overwhelming, a tidal wave of voices crashing in waves, vibrating in your chest. You want to laugh, cry, run, maybe all at once. And then you realize this is why people stayed. The hunger, the cold, the silence, all of it was bearable for this. Music that felt like touching heaven, even if you weren't sure heaven was listening. Finally, you stumble into the kitchen. Pots of porridge bubble over open fires. The smell of smoke, oats, and faint burnt milk hangs heavy in the air. You take a bowl. It's bland, thick, comforting in the way only exhaustion can make it. One monk stirs the pot endlessly, his hands red from heat. In the corner, a small locked cabinet catches your eye. The cook notices. His smile is too quick, too sharp. Don't ask, he says, which of course makes you want to ask. The sky outside glows faintly gold. Birds begin to stir. The monastery feels different now, less sinister, more alive. But as you walk the corridors one last time, you notice the tapestry you saw earlier has been pulled back across the hidden corridor. No trace remains of the scriptorium scene. Did you imagine it? Or did the monastery close its secrets just before dawn? The gargoyles outside grin down, as if they already know the answer. The first pale rays slip through the narrow stained glass windows, painting the floor in streaks of red and blue. The hall feels colder now, as though the night didn't want to let go. You run your hand along the stone wall. It's rough, damp, cool against your skin. Every groove tells a story. Fingers that brushed past centuries before you. Monks who walked the same path, whispering prayers you'll never know. Somewhere in the distance, a rooster crows. Not the cheerful farmyard sound you imagine, but a raw, broken screech that makes you chuckle under your breath. Even roosters sound medieval here. No one here lounges after prayers. The monks scatter to their tasks. One heads to the bakery, flour already dusting his robe. Another tends to the garden, pulling weeds with deliberate, silent care. You're handed a broom. No good morning, no instructions, just a broom. The handle is splintered, worn smooth where countless hands gripped it before yours. You sweep the stone floor, the bristles scraping against grit and dust. It's oddly grounding. No phones, no emails, no noise. Just the rhythm of the broom, your breath, and the faint drip of water from somewhere in the rafters. And for a fleeting moment, you wonder, could you live like this? You're led into a low, narrow room where the air smells of vinegar and crushed herbs. Beds line the walls, each with a thin blanket. This is the infirmary. A young monk tends to a patient with a cough so deep it rattles the walls. He mixes a paste of honey and garlic, presses it into the man's mouth, and mutters a prayer. You edge closer to a wooden shelf stacked with jars. Some contain herbs, lavender, mint, sage. Others, less friendly things. Dried toads, blackened roots, powders with no name. The healer catches your eye. He smiles faintly, but his eyes are shadowed. Some cures heal the body, he says. Others test the soul. You're not sure if that was meant to reassure you. For the first time, the monastery gate creaks open. A few villagers wait outside with baskets of eggs, apples, and rough wool. Their voices are hushed, almost afraid to break the monastery's silence. You watch as goods are traded quietly. Bread for wool, honey for herbs. The monks move like shadows, exchanging items without a single wasted word. One villager glances at you curiously. Their eyes linger just a second too long, as if they're wondering, who are you, and why are you inside these walls? The gate slams shut again. The outside world vanishes, just as quickly as it appeared. You stumble on it by accident, a narrow stair twisting downward, half choked with dust. At the bottom, a small chapel glimmers with candlelight. The air here feels different, heavier. The altar is simple stone, but the walls are lined with carvings that look older than the monastery itself. Symbols you can't quite place, half Christian, half something older, something earthbound. You kneel instinctively, though you're not sure why. The silence presses on your chest. You can almost hear the heartbeat of the stone. A shadow passes in the corner. When you look again, nothing's there. Back in the kitchen, the day's bread bakes in the oven. The fire roars, throwing sparks into the smoky air. The smell is overwhelming. Charred wood, yeast, a faint sweetness that makes your stomach ache with hunger. A monk pulls a loaf from the flames with bare, scarred hands. He doesn't flinch. He simply places it on the table, cracks the crust, and steam bursts into the air. You break off a piece. It's hot, chewy, dense, no butter, no jam, just bread in its rawest form, and yet you've never tasted anything so honest. The monk nods once approvingly. It feels like you've passed a test you didn't know you were taking. You find yourself drawn back to the reliquary. Candles drip wax onto iron stands, filling the room with the thick, sweet smell of burning tallow. The chest in the corner is still there, still locked, still whispering temptation. You lean closer, ear against the wood. For a moment, you swear you hear scratching. Not mice, something slower, something deliberate. You step back, heart pounding. The monk guarding the relics catches your eye. His face is blank, but the corners of his mouth twitch into something almost like a warning. The bell rings again, sharper this time. Monks head to the fields. Some dig furrows with crude tools. Others carry buckets of water from the well. Their robes drag in the mud, hems stiff with dirt. The sun is climbing now, washing the stone walls in pale gold. The fields smell of turned earth and sweat. Birds wheel overhead, cawing as though mocking your labor. You wipe your brow, hands blistered, and realize the night may be over, but the monastery never really sleeps. Its rhythm goes on, endless, silent, unbroken. And you're just one more shadow moving in the ancient pattern. The sun rises, and with it, the monastery changes. The shadows that made the night feel haunted now soften. Sunlight spills across the cloister garden, catching on dew and gilding the herbs in gold. For a brief moment, it almost feels peaceful. Birds sing. The air smells of rosemary and damp grass. And yet, behind the beauty, the walls still loom high, reminding you that this place is more prison than palace. Once you step inside, it's not easy to walk back out. Monastic life isn't about free time. Every hour is carved by the bell, and the bell shows no mercy. You're sent to the fields with a hoe in your hands. The soil is stubborn, clinging, thick with rocks. Sweat beads on your forehead as you hack at the earth. The monks around you work without complaint, their silence broken only by the steady thud of tools striking soil. This isn't just farming, it's worship. Every swing of the hoe, every pulled weed, every basket of beans, it's all considered prayer. Backaches for God, blisters for eternity. Oh, your modern brain rebels. Isn't prayer supposed to be, I don't know, sitting quietly? But here, toil is prayer, and the more your muscles ache, the holier you're supposed to feel. Spoiler, you don't. Just when you think your back might actually snap in two, the bell rings. Work stops. Everyone files back in. The sound cuts through the fields like a command you can't disobey. You wipe your hands on your robe. They're filthy, raw, stinging with tiny cuts, and you realize something strange. There's no well done, no smiles, no encouragement. You work because the bell tells you to. You stop because the bell tells you to. The rhythm of your life belongs to stone and metal now, not to you. You follow the monks into a vaulted chamber, the chapter house. Stone benches line the walls. Sunlight streams through narrow slits, dust dancing in the beams. Here the day's rules are read aloud, punishments delivered, confessions made. Imagine a medieval HR meeting, except no coffee and way more public humiliation. A monk kneels in the center. He's accused of falling asleep during prayer. His head bows. His punishment? To lie face down on the cold stone floor while the others step over him in silence. You watch, uncomfortable. It's strict, brutal, but to them it's purification. To you it looks a lot like bullying in a robe. Later you're sent to the workshop. The smell of sawdust and iron fills the air. Some monks carve wooden bowls, others hammer crude nails. A group bends over parchment, mixing ink from oak galls and soot. You're handed a quill. The parchment stretches in front of you, smooth calf skin, faintly smelling of leather. The monk gestures. Copy. Your hand cramps almost immediately. Ink splatters. Your letters look like a toddler's attempt at calligraphy. The monk sighs and takes it away. You're demoted to stirring ink instead. You can't help but notice, though, the texts they copy aren't just holy words. Some are herbal guides, others star charts, even odd mathematical riddles. Knowledge here is curated, hidden, controlled. It feels less like learning, more like guarding a secret. The bell again. Always the bell. This time it's for the midday meal. You shuffle into the refectory. The long hall echoes with footsteps. Wooden benches creak as everyone sits. Bowls of beans, bread, and weak ale are passed down the line. But no chatter, no laughter. While you chew the bland, heavy food, one monk stands at a lectern and reads scripture aloud. His voice drones endlessly, words rising and falling like waves you can't escape. It's less a meal, more a lecture disguised as lunch. You glance at the monk across from you, hoping for some shared eye roll. Nothing. His gaze is locked on his bowl, eating as though God himself is grading each bite. Wang, You take a gulp of ale. It tastes sour, but at least it doesn't preach at you. After the meal, the sun is high. The monastery grows hotter. The air in the cloister garden feels thick, heavy with sage and sweat. You spot monks napping in corners, heads bowed, hands folded. Technically, it's prayer. Realistically, it looks a lot like holy power napping. You're tempted to do the same, but a stern glance reminds you. Guests don't get to slack. Instead, you're handed a bucket. Watering the herb beds feels endless, the sun pressing on your neck until your vision swims. The work is exhausting, and yet there's something soothing in the repetition. Dip, pour, dip, pour. The plants don't judge your technique. They just drink. The bell calls again, slicing through your thoughts. You drag yourself back to the chapel. The air inside is cooler, thick with incense. The smoke clings to your robe, sharp and sweet, coating your throat until you cough. The chants begin. Low, slow. Your eyelids droop. You try to fight it, but the rhythm pulls you under. Half asleep, you sway with the voices. It's like being carried on a tide, and for the first time you understand why people gave up everything for this. The chant isn't just music, it's a net wrapping around your mind, holding you still. This time you're braver. You slip back into the scriptorium, eyes scanning for that hooded figure from the night. He's gone. The desk is empty, the parchment rolled away. But the air feels different here. Heavy, secretive. You notice one desk pushed slightly out of place. Behind it, faint markings carved into the wood. Circles, lines, stars. Symbols of something not quite holy. You run your fingers over them, rough, deliberate, hidden in plain sight. The monk overseeing the room clears his throat loudly. You step back quickly, forcing a smile. He watches you too long before returning to his work. Your stomach tightens. Some secrets don't like being noticed. The day drags on. The sun blazes, shadows shrinking under its glare. You're back in the garden, plucking weeds from neat rows of vegetables. The smell of soil clings to your fingers. Bees buzz lazily over lavender. You catch sight of the locked section again, where the darker herbs grow. Henbane, belladonna, monk's hood, plants that can heal or kill. A monk nearby hums softly, pretending not to notice your interest. His hands move quickly, cutting herbs with practiced ease. But his eyes flick to you once, sharp as a blade. You look away. Some gardens aren't meant for visitors. The afternoon wanes. The heat softens. Long shadows creep back across the cloister. The monastery shifts again, back toward silence, back toward night. The bell tolls for evening prayer. You realize with a chill, you've survived the night, endured the day, but another night is waiting. Another silence, another darkness filled with whispers. And you're not sure you'll ever hear the outside world again. The bell tolls again, its sound rolling across the cloister like thunder trapped in stone. The day shrinks with every strike. Shadows lengthen along the garden path, swallowing the herbs in twilight. You walk the cloister corridors, your footsteps echoing too loudly, and it feels as though the walls lean in closer now, listening. The carved saints in the niches are no longer soft with sunlight. They're dark silhouettes, eyes deep and unreadable. The monastery is shifting back into its night shape. You can feel it in your bones. The monks gather again in the chapel. Candles are lit, smoke curls upward, and the chant begins. This time it's slower, thicker. Voices that sound more like warnings than worship. The chant drags your thoughts down, down, like wading through deep water. Your eyes trace the stained glass. By day it was holy and beautiful. By night the colors distort, bleeding red and green, faces stretching into something almost monstrous. You look away, but the feeling lingers. Not every prayer here is meant for heaven. The refectory again. This time the meal is smaller. Just a heel of bread, a ladle of thin soup, and a slice of cheese so sharp it stings your nose. The scripture reader's voice drones, echoing across the hall. His words feel heavy, almost punitive, as if every syllable weighs down the air. You chew slowly, aware of every creak, every cough, every flicker of candlelight. You wonder if the silence is meant to bring you closer to God, or simply to remind you you're trapped in someone else's rhythm. Outside, the sky bruises purple. The monastery breathes with a different kind of energy now, quieter, heavier, as though waiting. You stand in the cloister garden. The herbs that smelled so fresh by day now seem sharp, almost bitter. Somewhere an owl hoots. The sound echoes through the corridors, eerie, ancient. You breathe deeply. Cold air, damp stone, wax, smoke. It's not unpleasant, but it is thick, like the monastery itself is alive, inhaling with you. As you head back inside, you catch a glimpse of one monk standing apart. His face is half hidden by the hood, but his eyes lock onto yours. They don't look kind or curious. They look knowing. He doesn't speak, doesn't gesture. He just watches as you pass, and though you tell yourself not to look back, you do. He's still staring. The chapel is colder now, the chants softer, but no less haunting. The monks kneel, their silhouettes swaying in rhythm, voices rising and falling like waves against a cliff. You kneel too, but your thoughts wander. You wonder what lies behind the locked doors, the heavy chests, the symbols carved into wood. And for the first time you realize, you may not want the answers. When Compline ends, the great silence begins again. No words until dawn. The monastery folds into stillness. Only the crackle of torches and the distant drip of water break the air. You walk the corridors, every sound magnified. Your own footsteps betray you. The smell of tallow and damp wool hangs heavy in your nose. And then, you hear it. A door shutting. Soft but deliberate. Somewhere down a corridor you're not supposed to enter. You follow. Slowly, heart thudding in your chest. The corridor is narrower here, lined with stone arches. The torchlight doesn't reach far. Shadows pool like ink. You stop at a door. Heavy oak, banded with iron. A faint light leaks from beneath it. You lean closer. Voices murmur inside. Not the chant of prayer. Lower, urgent, suspicious. And then, silence. The light vanishes. You step back, every hair on your neck standing tall. Back in the dormitory, you lie on the straw bed again. The snores, the creaks, the rats. It all feels familiar now. Too familiar. But sleep doesn't come easy. Your mind replays the locked doors, the symbols, the whispering voices. You close your eyes, but the darkness feels heavier here, pressing, watching. And just as you're about to drift, you hear it again. Not chanting, not snoring, but a soft scratching, coming from beneath the floor. You hold your breath. The sound is faint but steady. Scrape, pause, scrape. Not a rat. Rats scurry, dart, squeak. This is slower, deliberate, like someone drawing a line in the dark. You press your ear to the cold stone floor. It's coming from the crypt below. The floor vibrates ever so slightly with each scratch. A monk shifts in the bed beside you. His eyes are closed, his breath even. But you can't shake the feeling. He hears it too. He just knows better than to move. Sleep is impossible now. You rise, careful not to wake the others. Torchlight flickers faintly from the corridor. The stair to the crypt spirals downward, each step colder than the last. Your hand glides along the wall. It's damp, slimy with moss. The air thickens, earthy, metallic, like rust and candle smoke woven together. At the bottom, the crypt yawns open. Tombs line the walls, lids heavy with dust. Candles gutter low, their flames bending as though pushed by unseen breath. And there, in the far corner, a chest. The same iron-banded chest you saw earlier. But now it isn't silent. Something inside scratches. You kneel beside it. Your hand hovers over the lock, cold and rough against your skin. The scratching stops. Silence. The kind of silence that feels alive, waiting. Then, 3 quick taps. From the inside. You stagger back, heart slamming. The monks said nothing about this, nothing about what was kept below, hidden in iron and wood. And you realize with a shiver that some relics weren't meant to be prayed over. They were meant to be contained. You leave the chest, but the crypt doesn't let you go. As you climb back toward the dormitory, the air carries voices, whispered, urgent. You can't make out the words, only the rhythm. It sounds like Latin, but distorted, as though chewed up by stone. The whispers follow you, growing louder the faster you walk. At the top of the stairs, you turn sharply, torch raised. Nothing. Just the empty spiral, curving down into darkness. Back in the dormitory, you slip under the blanket, but you don't close your eyes. You stare at the rafters, the beams creak, the straw rustles. The snore of the holy bear monk rattles the silence. And yet, above it all, you still hear the scratching. Faint, steady, as though it's not coming from below anymore, as though it's moved. Closer. At last, salvation. The bell rings for matins, midnight prayers. You stumble with the monks to the chapel. Exhausted, dizzy, your thoughts fogged with fear. But the chapel is different tonight. The air is heavier. The chant begins, lower, slower, vibrating the very floor. You watch their faces by candlelight, eyes half shut, mouths moving in unison. And for the first time you wonder, are they chanting for God? Or are they chanting to keep something else asleep? During the chant, you notice a small side door open. 2 monks slip out, robes brushing the stone, candles in hand. No one else reacts. You follow. The passage curves sharply, narrowing until your shoulders brush the walls. The monks ahead descend another stair. Their light flickers, revealing painted symbols on the stone, circles, stars, crosses tangled together. One of the monks glances back. His face is hidden, but his hand tightens on the candle. For a heartbeat, you think he'll stop you. But he turns away, descending deeper. The stair opens into a small chamber beneath the monastery. Candles ring the walls, their flames guttering in drafts you can't feel. At the center lies a table of stone. On it, a book, chained shut. Its cover is cracked, darkened by centuries of touch. The monks kneel before it, chanting low, voices vibrating through your bones. You step closer, breath shallow. The book's chain rattles. Not much, just a twitch. Like something inside is trying to turn the pages. One of the candles sputters out. The shadows leap, stretching across the chamber. The chant falters, just for a moment. The chain rattles harder. The monks begin again, faster now, louder. Their voices crack with strain, echoing off the stone until your ears ring. And you realize you're not supposed to be here. Not just because it's forbidden, but because whatever is chained inside that book doesn't want witnesses. You slip away, back up the stair, into the dormitory where straw beds creak and snores fill the dark. But you can't sleep. Not after what you saw, not after what you heard. And as you lie awake staring at the beams above, the sound returns, scratching, but this time not from below. It's coming from the wall, right beside your head. The night presses on, but instead of terror, the monastery begins to wrap around you like an old wool cloak. The scratching in the wall fades, replaced by the softer sounds of life in stone. Timbers creaking, a mouse scurrying, the sigh of wind sneaking through cracks. You turn on your side and the straw bed, though lumpy, settles beneath you. The warmth of the wool blanket, scratchy as it is, anchors you against the chill. Somewhere in the dark, a monk hums a faint melody, low and steady, like a lullaby meant more for himself than anyone else. When the bell rings again, the chapel glows faintly with new candles. The monks move slowly as though they too are carrying the weight of sleepless hours. The chant tonight is softer, gentler, almost like waves brushing the shore. You close your eyes as their voices rise and fall, the words meaningless to you but the rhythm strangely comforting. The stone floor under your knees is cold, yet the warmth of many bodies, cloaked in robes, makes the air feel alive. It isn't frightening anymore. it's grounding. Back in the cloister garden, the moonlight paints everything silver. The herbs glisten with dew, their smells stronger in the damp night. Lavender, mint, sage, all mingling into a scent both sharp and calming. The fountain murmurs in the corner, water spilling gently into its basin. You sit on the stone ledge, the chill biting at your legs, and listen to the trickle. The night here feels like it belongs to secrets, yes, but also to peace. When you return to the dormitory, most monks are already asleep. Their snores are steady, rhythmic, more like a chorus than a nuisance. You lie down, eyes half closed, and hear the faint rustle of straw as someone shifts in their sleep. The rafters above groan softly, as though the building itself is breathing. You pull the blanket tighter, and for a fleeting moment, the weight of centuries presses on you, not in fear, but in quiet awe. The hours slip by. Somewhere an owl calls, distant and lonely. The night no longer feels threatening. It feels eternal. You realize you're drifting, caught between wakefulness and dreams, lulled by the rhythm of bells, the murmur of fountains, and the whispers of ancient stone. The night stretches on, and the chapel bells fade into silence. You lie back in the dormitory, staring at the rafters, the flickering glow of a dying candle painting faint shadows across the beams. The scent of beeswax lingers in the air, mixing with straw and the faint musk of wool robes. Slowly your breath falls into rhythm with the steady snores around you, like waves pulling back from a shore. The unease remains, but it has dulled into something quieter, something almost tender. The monastery itself seems to cradle you now. Its walls no longer feel like a prison, but a cocoon. Every groan of the timber, every sigh of stone, feels like the building is alive, watching, listening, perhaps even caring in its own ancient way. You find comfort in the idea that countless souls before you also lay in this same silence, seeking rest, finding it imperfectly but enough to carry them through another day. A breeze whispers through the cracks in the shuttered window, carrying with it the smell of damp earth and rosemary from the garden. The sound of the fountain drifts faintly through the corridor, a trickle that lulls your thoughts into softness. The garden feels close, as though its herbs and flowers are leaning against the stone just to soothe you. It's strange. What frightened you before now feels like protection, as though even the shadows are keeping watch. Time becomes slippery. The night seems endless, but also fleeting. You drift in and out of shallow dreams, images of monks writing by candlelight, of voices rising in chant, of silver light spilling through the stained glass windows. Each dream melts into the next, until you can't tell where memory ends and imagination begins. Yet none of it feels threatening. It feels like being carried, rocked gently by the weight of time. Somewhere in the darkness, a bell tolls again. Not harsh, not commanding, just a soft call. The monks rise quietly, robes whispering across the stone as they file out for prayer. You stay in bed, eyes half closed, listening to the shuffling footsteps fade. Alone in the dormitory, you let the silence settle around you, heavy but gentle. The silence doesn't demand, it allows. It holds you in its hands until sleep finally takes you, deeper than before. When you wake, dawn has crept across the sky. The window glows faint blue, and the faint chorus of birdsong spills into the cloister. The monastery feels different now, less secretive, more open, but still cloaked in mystery. You rise, stretching your stiff limbs, and the chill of the morning air wraps around you like an old friend. Another day is beginning, and you are still here, caught in the rhythm of bells, stone, and silence. The first light of dawn stretches across the narrow window slit, spilling faint blue onto the stone floor. You stir beneath the wool blanket, your body stiff from the straw mattress, the smell of dust and hay clinging to your skin. The air is sharp, cold, with a dampness that seeps into your bones. You sit up slowly. Around you, monks are already rising, moving with quiet discipline. No groans, no yawns, no complaints. Just silent motions, pulling on robes, folding blankets, sliding bare feet across stone. The snoring chorus that carried through the night is gone now, replaced by the faint shuffle of sandals. For a moment, you just sit there, blinking at the faint light. You feel the weight of the building, the history pressing down on you. But it no longer feels suffocating. It feels steady, as if the monastery itself has taken you in. You follow the others into the cloister corridor. The air is colder here, biting at your face. Torches smolder weakly against the dawn, their flames coughing as the morning breeze slips through cracks in the stone. Outside, birds stir in the distance, their calls echoing faintly over the walls. The monks move toward the chapel. You trail behind, your bare feet brushing the cold slabs. The scent of incense greets you before you even enter, a thick, sweet smoke that clings to your throat. Inside, the chapel glows with candles. The monks bow low, their silhouettes swaying in rhythm. The chant begins, low and steady. This time it feels different, less like a warning, more like a greeting to the new day. The notes rise softly, rolling like mist through the air. You kneel, the stone biting into your knees, and close your eyes. For a moment, the chant feels endless, timeless, pulling you into a silence you didn't know you were carrying. When the prayer ends, the monks file out wordlessly. The candles flicker, gutter, and you rise again. The world outside has shifted. The cloister garden gleams with dew, the fountain sparkles faintly, and the sky beyond the walls has turned a pale gold. It is morning, and the day has begun. The bell rings again, sharp and commanding. You follow the monks into the refectory for breakfast. The hall is long and narrow, lit by a single row of candles. Wooden benches scrape as bodies settle. The smell of bread fills the air, thick and yeasty, mixed with the sharp tang of cheese. A thin broth simmers in a pot, its steam curling weakly into the room. The monks eat in silence. One stands at a lectern, reading aloud in Latin. The words wash over you like a tide you don't understand, heavy and relentless. You chew the bread, it's dense, almost hard, but warm enough to soften in your mouth. The cheese is sharp, the broth plain, but together they fill you. There's no laughter here, no conversation, not even a glance shared between monks. Every bite is deliberate, every movement careful. You swallow quietly, the sound of it loud in your ears, and wonder how long you could last in this silence. When the meal ends, the monks rise together, the benches groaning beneath them. Dishes are cleared without a word. You stand, still chewing the last bite of bread, and file out with the rest. The bell rings again. Work begins. The fields stretch just beyond the cloister wall, and already the soil smells rich and damp. You're handed a hoe, its handle worn smooth by countless hands. The sun climbs higher, painting the land in soft gold. You press the blade into the earth, and the resistance surprises you. The soil is heavy, clumped with stones, unwilling to yield. Around you, monks work in silence, their movements practiced, rhythmic. The thud of tools striking earth forms its own chant, a prayer of labor. Sweat beads quickly on your brow, trickling down your neck. Your arms ache after only a few swings, but you push on, falling into the rhythm. The silence is no longer oppressive, it's almost soothing. Each swing, each scrape, each pull of weeds feels strangely grounding. The air smells of fresh turned soil, grass damp with dew, and the faint sweetness of blossoms drifting from the herb garden. Bees hum lazily, circling the lavender. The monastery walls loom behind you, stone against sky, timeless and indifferent. Time blurs, minutes, maybe hours pass. The ache in your muscles deepens, but you keep going. The rhythm of work, the warmth of the sun, the steady silence, it all merges into a kind of trance. For a moment you forget yourself. You are just another body moving in the ancient pattern. When the bell finally rings, sharp and unyielding, you drop the hoe with relief. The monks stand, stretch silently, and begin the walk back toward the cloister. You wipe your brow, your hands raw, and follow. The fields fall quiet again, waiting for the next prayer disguised as labor. The bell rings again, sharp enough to cut through the hum of the fields. You follow the monks back through the cloister, your sandals slapping against the worn stone. The sun above is climbing high now, washing the monastery walls in a pale, unforgiving light. The shadows have shrunk, leaving everything exposed. Every crack in the wall, every weed creeping between the stones, every tired line in the monks' faces. Inside the cloister corridor, the air is cooler, heavy with the mingled scents of damp stone and candle wax. You wipe your hands on your robe, the grit of soil clinging stubbornly to your skin. The silence here is absolute, so deep it feels alive, as if the walls themselves demand it. Even your footsteps seem too loud, a small rebellion against centuries of rules. The monks file into the chapter house, and you follow. The chamber is round, vaulted, the ceiling high enough that sound seems to climb before it falls. Dust drifts lazily in the shafts of light that cut through the narrow windows. They sit on stone benches that curve along the wall, robes pooling around their feet like shadows. A single monk reads aloud from a parchment, his voice steady but sharp. This is not prayer. This is judgment. A brother kneels in the center, head bowed, hands folded tight. His crime? Sleeping during prayer. Your stomach twists as his punishment is delivered. Not whipping, not shouting, but humiliation. He must lie flat on the floor while the others step over him on their way out. A reminder that weakness is to be trampled, not pitied. The room holds its breath. One by one, the monks rise and pass, their sandals brushing against his robe. No one pauses. No one spares a glance. You want to look away, but you can't. The silence is heavier here than anywhere else, weighted with discipline, fear, and something darker, something you can't name. When the last monk leaves, the punished man rises silently, dust clinging to his robe. His face is blank, but his eyes flick toward you, just for a heartbeat. And then he is gone. The bell calls you next to the refectory for the midday meal. The hall smells of boiled beans and bread, heavy and plain. Candles flicker along the walls, their wax dripping onto wooden stands, their smoke curling into the stale air. You sit at a long wooden table, the bench creaking beneath you. A bowl is placed in front of you. Beans stewed until soft, bread thick and dark, a small slice of cheese sharp enough to sting your nose. Beside it, a mug of ale, thin and sour, but drinkable. The monks eat in silence, heads bent. One stands at the lectern again, reading aloud in Latin, his voice droning like a low tide against the stone. The words are meaningless to you, but the rhythm is relentless, leaving no space for your thoughts to wander. You chew the bread. It is dense, coarse, but warm. The beans are bland, though filling. The cheese is the strongest flavor on your tongue, salty, tangy, earthy. Each bite grounds you, draws you deeper into the rhythm of this place. Still, the silence presses. No laughter, no clatter of spoons, just chewing, swallowing, and the endless voice from the lectern. You glance at the monk across from you, hoping to find some crack in the stillness, some flicker of shared humanity. But his gaze is fixed on his bowl, unblinking. You swallow hard, your throat loud in your own ears, and bow your head again. After the meal, the monks scatter to their duties. You're led into the workshop where the air is thick with the smells of wood, ink, and iron. Sunlight pours through narrow windows, falling across workbenches littered with tools. One corner hums with the rasp of a saw. A monk carves a bowl from a block of oak, each stroke of the blade steady and patient. Another hammers iron nails, the clang echoing sharply against the stone. At a long table, three brothers grind oak galls into powder, mixing it with soot and water to form ink. The smell is sharp, bitter, earthy. You're handed a quill and seated before a blank sheet of parchment stretched taut across the desk. The calfskin feels smooth beneath your fingers, cool and faintly oily. The monk beside you dips his quill into ink and begins copying with fluid grace, Latin words curling like vines across the page. You try to imitate him. The quill scratches awkwardly. Ink pools where it shouldn't, splattering across the clean surface. Your hand cramps within minutes. The monk sighs, gently takes the quill, and replaces your task with something simpler. You're given a mortar of black powder and instructed to grind. The work is tedious, but there's comfort in its rhythm. Grind, stir, scrape. The ink thickens beneath your hands, smooth and dark. But as you glance across the room, something catches your eye. One desk sits apart, half hidden in shadow. Its parchment is not scripture, but diagrams, circles, stars, strange symbols curling in tight patterns. You lean closer, squinting, trying to catch a better look. Before you can, a monk coughs sharply. He moves to block your view, his eyes narrowing, his expression unreadable. He places a new jar in front of you and mutters, "Work." The shadows seem thicker around that desk now. You look down at the mortar, grinding slower, your thoughts racing. Not every book here is meant to be read aloud. By mid-afternoon, the bell calls again, pulling you from the workshop. The cloister garden glows under the sun, herbs swaying in the warm air. Lavender and sage release their scent as monks move quietly among the beds, clipping sprigs with careful hands. You're given a basket and set to gathering mint. The leaves are cool beneath your fingers, their smell sharp and refreshing. A relief after the heavy sense of ink and sweat. Bees hover lazily, darting from flower to flower, their hum blending with the faint trickle of the fountain. Yet not all the garden is so innocent. Toward the far wall, behind taller bushes, darker plants grow. Mandrake, belladonna, monkshood. Their leaves are thicker, their smell bitter, cloying. A monk passes near you, his basket full of lavender. His eyes flick to the corner, then back to you. His pace quickens, his shoulders tightening. You glance again, curiosity biting at you. But the plants seem to watch back, their leaves trembling, though the air is still. The monk clears his throat sharply. You look away, focusing on the mint in your hands. The scent fills your nose, pushing back the bitterness. Still, the corner of your eye lingers on the forbidden patch, and the unease it stirs does not leave you. The sun dips lower, spilling amber light across the cloister garden. The herbs glow golden, their leaves trembling in the breeze. The fountain shimmers, droplets catching the last rays before sinking into shadow. The day exhales slowly, its rhythm softening into something quieter, something more secretive. The monks move toward the refectory, their sandals brushing against the stone in hushed unison. You follow, your stomach stirring at the scent of smoke and bread drifting from the kitchen. The air is thick with the mingled smells of boiled grain, onions, and faintly sweet cider. Inside, candles line the long wooden tables. Their flames bend in the draft, dripping wax that pools like pale tears on the stands. You sit, the bench creaking beneath you, and a bowl is placed before you. Stew, thick with beans and cabbage, bread warm from the oven, and a mug of cider, tart and sharp. The silence holds as always. A monk stands at the lectern, reading in Latin, his voice calm and steady. You don't know the words, but their cadence soothes you, weaving into the clatter of spoons and the soft scrape of wooden bowls. The food is plain, but after the long hours of labor, it fills you. You chew slowly, tasting every grain of the bread, every earthy bite of the stew, the cider cutting through it with a crisp tang. Across from you, a monk's face is lit by candlelight. His eyes are lowered, his movements precise, almost ritualistic. You wonder what thoughts sit behind that bowed head, what secrets lie beneath that hood. When the meal ends, the benches scrape back. The monks rise together, silent as shadows, and file out. You follow, the smell of stew clinging to your robe, your belly warm, your mind hazy. The chapel glows brighter now, lit with more candles than before. Their flames flicker across the stone walls, stretching shadows into long, bending shapes. The air is thick with incense, sweet and heavy, curling into every corner. The monks kneel. The chant begins. This time the sound is softer, lower, slower, almost like a lullaby. The voices blend into one another until you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. The notes swell and fade, rolling like a tide against the stone. You kneel, the cold floor pressing into your knees. You close your eyes, and the chant seeps into you. It doesn't frighten you now. It anchors you. Every vibration hums in your chest, steady, timeless, ancient. You open your eyes just once, and in the shifting candlelight, the faces around you seem older than they are, lined, shadowed, their eyes half closed as though seeing something beyond this place. For a moment, you wonder if they are chanting for God, or for something deeper hidden within these walls. The thought flickers like a shadow and passes. You bow your head again, letting the chant carry you. Night settles outside, cloaking the monastery in silver and black. The air cools sharply, carrying the damp scent of stone and grass. The cloister garden gleams with moonlight, the herbs wet with dew, the fountain whispering softly. You linger there for a while, sitting on the cold stone ledge. The silence is thick, but not unfriendly. An owl calls from somewhere beyond the wall, its cry stretching long into the dark. You breathe deeply. The air smells of rosemary, damp earth, and faint smoke from the kitchen fire. It feels both strange and safe, like you're wrapped in a story older than you can fathom. When you return to the dormitory, the monks are already lying in their straw beds. The room is dim, lit by a single candle sputtering near the door. The straw smells of hay, sweat, and dust, but the wool blanket is warm against the chill. You settle in, your body heavy with the day's labor, your mind soft with food and prayer. Around you, the snores begin, steady, rhythmic, oddly comforting. The rafters creak, the walls sigh, and the monastery itself seems to breathe with you. Your eyes close. For a moment, you drift, suspended between wakefulness and dream. You hear the faint drip of water in the distance, the low rustle of straw as someone shifts in their sleep, the soft hum of the night pressing against the stone. And then, quietly, faintly, you hear it again. Not scratching, not whispering, just the low, almost inaudible sound of chanting, somewhere deep within the walls. A hidden prayer, meant for ears that are not yours. You pull the blanket tighter, your heart steady now. The sound doesn't frighten you anymore. It settles into the night like another layer of silence, another secret among many. The monastery is still, the air heavy, the night long, but you let your eyes close fully now, sinking deeper, the shadows folding over you like wool. By late afternoon, the sun begins to tilt westward. The heat softens. The long shadows return, crawling across the cloister floor, stretching thin fingers along the stone. The air cools, scented now with smoke from the kitchen, where the evening meal begins to simmer. The bell tolls once more. Its sound rolls through the cloister, steady, commanding, impossible to ignore. The monks gather again, their robes brushing against stone, their faces turned toward the chapel. You follow, your footsteps echoing faintly in the narrowing light. Evening is coming, and with it, the monastery's second transformation. The bell tolls in the distance, a low, resonant hum that seeps through the stone walls and into your bones. It is the midnight call to prayer, though here in the dormitory it feels more like a dream, half remembered. You rise with the others. Sandals slap against stone, woolen robes swish softly. The air is colder now, sharp enough to sting your lungs. The corridor glows faintly with candlelight, smoke curling upward in thin threads. When you step into the chapel, the darkness presses heavy, broken only by the flicker of flames. The monks kneel, their faces hidden in shadow. The chant begins again, deeper this time, slower, each note stretched until it feels eternal. The sound rolls through the stone like water through caves. You bow your head, letting the rhythm pull you in. The words are foreign, but the cadence is familiar, like a heartbeat outside your own. It is both unsettling and comforting, like standing on the edge of the sea. When the prayer ends, the chapel falls into silence, so complete it hums in your ears. The monks rise and file back to the dormitory, their robes brushing the stone floor. You follow, your footsteps echoing faintly behind theirs. Back in the dormitory, the straw beds creak as bodies settle again. The candle near the door sputters once, then dies, plunging the room into deeper shadow. You lie down, the wool blanket scratchy against your skin, the straw mattress prickling your back. The silence is heavy now, but not empty. It feels thick, alive, carrying secrets older than your lifetime. You close your eyes, listening. At first only snores, the soft rustle of straw, the creak of rafters, and then a sound. Faint, steady, not scratching, not whispering. A low hum, like breath against the wall. You press your ear closer to the cold stone. It is there, an echo, a vibration, a song too soft to name. You don't pull away. You let it fill you. Hours slip by in a haze. You drift in and out of shallow sleep, half dreams weaving with the sounds of the monastery. You see flashes of candlelight behind your eyelids, hear voices that blur into the wind, feel the weight of centuries pressing gently on your chest. At some point, you dream you are walking the cloister garden again. The moonlight paints the herbs silver, and the fountain glitters like broken glass. You sit on the stone ledge, dipping your fingers into the water, and it feels warmer than it should, alive, pulsing, as though the monastery itself breathes through it. The dream folds into silence, and silence folds into rest. When you wake, you are unsure if minutes or hours have passed. The dormitory is darker still, the night pressing against the windows, the rafters groaning softly above. The monks around you sleep soundly, their breath steady and calm. You rise quietly, drawn by some pull you can't name. The corridor beyond the dormitory is empty, its stone walls gleaming faintly in the moonlight. You walk slowly, your hand brushing the cold surface, your footsteps muted. The cloister garden waits in a silver silence. The air smells of wet grass and lavender, sharp and clean. The fountain murmurs, and the owl calls again, its voice echoing through the night. You sit on the ledge listening. For the first time, the monastery feels less like a cage of stone and more like a living thing. A presence watching you, holding you, sheltering you. You should feel uneasy. You don't. You feel cared for. The shadows stretch long across the garden, but they no longer frighten you. They seem like companions, leaning close, whispering softly without words. The night is vast, endless, eternal, and you are small but safe within it. The monastery holds its breath. The night is heavy, silver, still. You sit in the cloister garden, your fingers brushing the damp stone ledge, your ears filled with the whisper of the fountain. The moon hangs pale above the wall, clouds drifting lazily across its face. The silence is so complete you hear everything, the soft rustle of herbs as they sway in the breeze, the drip of water onto stone, the faint creak of wood in the rafters. Even your own breath feels loud, fogging into the air, vanishing like smoke. You close your eyes for a moment. When you open them, the sky has shifted. It is no longer black, but a deep navy, streaked faintly with gray. The first hint of morning. The bell tolls, low and slow. Not sharp this time, not commanding. It rolls through the cloister like a reminder, like a sigh. The sound vibrates through the stones beneath your feet, and the monastery stirs. Doors open softly. Robes rustle. The monks emerge, their silhouettes dark against the pale glow of approaching dawn. No words, no hurry. Just steady movement, as if each step is a thread woven into an ancient pattern. You rise and follow them into the chapel. Inside, candles burn low, their flames bending weakly. The air smells of tallow, smoke, and faint incense, sharp and sweet. The monks kneel, their heads bowed, their faces half hidden in the glow. The chant begins. It is softer now, gentler than the night prayers, lighter than the evening hymns. The notes rise with the faint light creeping through the stained glass, painting the floor in washed-out colors. Red, blue, gold. You kneel too. The cold stone presses against your knees, but you barely feel it. The chant hums in your chest, lifting you, settling you, carrying you across the thin edge between night and morning. For a moment, your mind quiets completely. No questions, no unease, no suspicion, only sound and silence, woven together into something timeless. When the prayer ends, the monks rise slowly. Outside, the sky has softened into pale gray, streaks of faint pink brushing the horizon. The air in the cloister garden smells sharper now. Fresh earth, damp herbs, wet stone, and the first warmth of sun pressing against the chill. The fountain sparkles faintly, each droplet catching the new light. A bird calls once, twice, then another joins, and soon the garden is alive with song. The monastery, which only hours ago felt cloaked in shadow, now breathes with color again. You walk slowly, your sandals brushing against the stone. The herbs brush against your robe, leaving faint marks of dew. The world beyond the wall is still hidden, but within these stones, the day has begun. Back in the refectory, the benches creak as monks settle. Bowls of bread and porridge are passed, steam rising from the simple meal. The smell of oats and yeast warms the hall, chasing away the chill of night. You eat slowly. The bread is coarse, the porridge plain, but both fill you with a quiet satisfaction. The monk at the lectern reads again, his voice steady, rising above the sound of spoons scraping against wood. You glance around. The monks eat without expression, their heads bent, their movements deliberate. And yet in the candlelight and the soft morning glow, there is something human here. Tired eyes, small gestures, silent endurance. You chew, swallow, and realize you are no longer only a guest. For this moment, you are part of their rhythm. When the meal ends, the monks file out again. The bell rings, sharper now, calling them back to the fields, the gardens, the workshops. The day stretches ahead. Work, prayer, silence, repetition. You step into the cloister once more. The sun has risen just beyond the wall, spilling soft gold onto the herbs. The lavender glitters with dew, the roses open their petals to the light, and the air is filled with the mingled scent of earth and morning. The monastery stands as it always has, silent, secretive, steady. A world within walls, both comforting and suspicious, both shelter and mystery. You breathe deeply, the cool air filling your chest. The day has begun again, and you are still here, carried forward by bells, by silence, by the strange eternal rhythm of the monastery. The sun rises higher, spilling warm gold across the cloister. The walls that loomed so dark in the night now gleam pale against the sky. The fountain sparkles, the herbs sway, and the air carries a new stillness, the kind that follows a long secret kept safe until morning. You walk once more through the garden, your fingers brushing rosemary, lavender, and sage. The scents cling to your hands, sharp and comforting. The stone beneath your feet is cold but steady. Each step feels heavier, not with dread, but with the weight of what you have lived through. Silence, chant, candlelight, the strange hum of shadows that spoke without words. The monastery is the same as when you arrived, and yet you are not. You have seen its nights, endured its silence, shared its bread, felt its walls breathe around you. You've touched its secrets, even if you will never name them. The bell tolls again. Another call, another hour. The rhythm continues, as it always will, with or without you. You step back, turning once to look at the arches, the windows, the endless stone. And in that moment you realize, some places never truly let you leave. They stay with you, etched in your bones, whispering in the quiet hours of your own life. The gates open, the morning air spills in, bright and cool. You step beyond the walls, carrying the weight of silence, the warmth of candles, the echo of chants that will never quite leave your ears. The monastery fades behind you, cloaked again in its eternal rhythm. You breathe deeply, the world is waiting. And still a part of you remains in those stone halls, forever listening to the voices that hum through the night. And so, dear traveler, our night within the monastery comes to its quiet end. You have walked its cold stone corridors, sat in its candlelit chapel, heard the deep hum of chants rolling like waves through the silence. You have tasted its bread, felt the scratch of its wool, and shared the rhythm of monks who live by bells and shadows. It wasn't always easy. There were whispers, locked doors, and secrets in the walls, but you endured. You stayed through the night, carried into dawn by voices older than memory, steadied by walls that have seen centuries pass like drifting smoke. If you've listened this far, if you've let the story carry you through the silence, then I want to thank you. Truly thank you for stepping inside this world with me, for breathing with the stones and the shadows, for letting yourself rest in a rhythm not your own. When I sit down to tell these stories, I imagine you there, maybe curled under a blanket, maybe watching candlelight flicker on your ceiling, maybe just listening with your eyes closed, letting the words blur into dreams. And it means more than I can ever say that you've chosen to spend your time here, in this strange corner of history, with me. So, thank you. Thank you for being here, for wandering, for wondering. Thank you for staying until the very end. If you'd like to return, there are many more doors to open, many more nights to spend in forgotten places, many more whispers waiting in the dark. But for now, let the monastery fade into silence. Let the chant echo softly in your mind, and let yourself drift into rest. Because tonight, you've already traveled far enough. Good night, my friends. Sleep deeply, sleep peacefully, and I'll meet you again in another story, waiting just beyond the next bell.